Okay. Here, let me try. Even though everyone can hear me right now.
The most important thing for anyone to realize is that you and every person you see will soon be dead.
We can start, Eric. Yep. Green light. I think we're live.
Well, we've been live for a while, so let's see. Yeah, go ahead, jump to my face. Well, I don't know what's out there. Hello! I don't know who's watching right now, but thank you for joining us if you are watching. This is a special live stream from the Holo Herald. We are streaming live to the AMIS conference, and we're going to be doing a presentation about well, their Tech Week, the AMIS Tech Week, sorry. And we are going to be doing a presentation about immersive technology, specifically talking about AR, VR, and MR. They've asked us, Chad specifically has asked us to give a presentation. We are streaming this live, so we do have people that are watching this on YouTube. So if you guys want to go ahead and open it up on YouTube, you guys can join in on the chat on the side. And I think we're streaming live to a group of people out there somewhere, even though I have no context of what that might be. So thank you guys to everybody that's out there and could join us. Chad, if I'm not supposed to be talking now, you should tell me on Discord, but I'm just going to keep going as if we're not. All right, so let's jump right into this. I am Eric. I am one of the co-founders and main host of the Holo Herald channel. We are a channel that specifically focuses on mixed reality technology, but we also cover virtual reality and augmented reality, and then basically every form of reality and cool immersive tech that there is. You guys can follow us on YouTube if you're interested. And at the end of the presentation, if you're into this kind of stuff, we do weekly videos and podcasts. Basically, this is the exact same format as our podcast, just live specifically to the Tech Week. And go ahead, and I'm joined by my friend Paul. Go ahead, he can introduce himself.
Hi everyone, it's Paul. I'm excited to be here and help all of you learn about these amazing technologies that we're going to discuss today. We're going to do a very not really in-depth overview, but just a overview that will kind of introduce you to the technologies and give you some context for when you want to look them up yourself, or you get into a conversation, you can actually know what other people are talking about, or just have a more nuanced view. And if you already know about a lot of these technologies, which I'm sure some of you do, hopefully this will get you thinking in a different direction, or other things, maybe you've written them off already. So our goal today is kind of just to talk about all these awesome technologies.
Yep. So thank you to everybody again that's joining us. We have people jumping on the live stream right now. I guess we can go ahead and jump right into the presentation, shall we? Go ahead, Lawson. There you go. All right. So we just created a little quick presentation to help cover everything. A lot of this technology is best covered visually, so we thought it'd be best to talk about it visually. All right, so let's start off. So we're going to be talking about immersive technologies. Eric McFarland, co-handler. We also have our friend Austin running the switcher right now for what you guys can see. Quick note, if you guys do have any buffering issues or anything like that, please have Chad tell us or leave a link or talk in the chat or just get a hold of us somehow and we can pause and wait for the buffering issues to stop. Also, we're going to be doing a presentation, and then we're going to be doing a Q&A at the end of the presentation. So please think of questions so it's not awkward when we ask if there's any questions and nobody has anything to say. So if you guys find anything interesting or want to know more about one of the things we talk about or something completely irrelevant that we didn't even talk about, feel free to ask us at the end when we are all good to go. All right, let's go ahead and start into this. So we're going to start off with a brief history of consumer immersive technologies. In 1980, ODG created a augmented reality display for fighter jets. So like you've seen in Top Gun or, well, I guess not Top Gun, that's a little bit older, but is like you've seen in any of the movies with fighter jets or video games. And then in 2010, we're going to jump a big gap all the way up to 2010, and Kinect gives birth to the HoloLens. If you guys don't know what the Kinect is, Paul will go ahead and give you guys a quick description of what the Kinect is right now.
So for those of you who don't know, Kinect was a camera you could attach to an Xbox 360 in order to control a certain set of games. So think of like a Wii, but you don't need a controller. Your controller is your body. And what this did is add sensors in it, which would scan in your room and your body, and it would sense when you moved, and you can control a game that way. That really gave birth to the idea of the HoloLens, and we see a lot of the sensors that were in the Kinect and the HoloLens today. Obviously, not the exact versions, a little better, but really Kinect was just laying the groundwork for the HoloLens. Little did we know. We thought it was just some gimmicky camera, but here we are with the HoloLens.
Yeah, it didn't sell very well, and they actually just discontinued the Kinect, but to focus on the HoloLens technology and their IR shooters and all of that cool technology that was wrapped up into it. And then we jumped to 2012, and the Oculus Rift Kickstarter started. Oculus is now owned by Facebook, but it originally started as a Kickstarter, and this is what people really kind of consider the birth of the first consumer-grade VR headset that was actually widely adopted by people. And then we go to 2012, and Google Glass Dev Kit came out, and we all know how Google Glass went. It went horribly due to PR and marketing and social problems. They ran into a lot of issues. Needless to say, it was a really cool device. It was packed with a lot of cool technology, and 2012 was a very exciting time for augmented reality. And then they had the Meta. Meta is a company that was founded by a fella in Y Combinator, and they created one of the coolest mixed reality headsets available, and one of the earliest. And then Paul can talk about the rest.
And then we're going to have to jump a few years until the HoloLens, the developer kit, is released. We're going on about 2 years as of March 14th or 16th or something like that. So the HoloLens has been out about 2 years now, and I think most of you should have knowledge of it. I know it's been showing up in a lot of marketing materials for Microsoft lately. But yeah, the HoloLens is really what we would consider the first MR device, consumer MR device, that got into developers' hands really quickly. The Meta also kind of falls into that MR category, but we exclude it from the more like got into consumers' hands fast and like the first, just because the company has had issues producing them and just getting them out to developers in general. So we're going to count the HoloLens as the most successful so far of the MR devices.
Definitely. And go ahead.
And then in 2017, the end of 2017, it was like right before Christmas. It was an early Christmas gift. Magically finally came out with a real product. I don't know if any of you are aware of the company Magically, but we'll get into that later. And now we have 2018, where we have a whole lot of confusion because if you didn't notice, no one company except for Microsoft shows up twice in this timeline, and they've all kind of used their own marketing terms. So we're here to provide a little bit of clarity to everything, and really just do a better job of explaining what the differences between all these devices are.
Exactly. And if you guys were confused by what we said, that's totally fine. We're just giving a brief overview, and now we're going to jump into what all that actually means and why it matters. So first, we're going to cover terminology. You barely just heard us say a lot of words like VR, MR, AR, XR. You heard a lot of terms there, and that's totally fine if you don't know what those mean. That's what this presentation is for. So we're going to talk about all of those terms and what they mean, their experiences, technology behind them, how to get into developing or how to get interacting with the technology. Before I cover these, we want to talk about how the terminology is fluid. A lot of these terms kind of cross into each other and flow without of each other. So it might not be the most clear what they mean, but hopefully by the end of it, you can navigate it yourself. We will be covering in this presentation virtual reality, VR, augmented reality, AR, and mixed reality, MR. We won't be covering cross reality, XR, real reality, RR, and cinematic reality. Hopefully a lot of those ones we won't cover are pretty self-explanatory. But if you guys have any questions about what those are, we can cover them at the end of the presentation, or you can check out our YouTube channel and we cover all of those in depth. So let's go ahead and we're going to jump into our first one, virtual reality. Go ahead, Paul.
So virtual reality, we decided the best way to kind of explain this was to take a dictionary definition and then kind of add our own definition, because a lot of times the dictionaries are they go a little too in depth with wordy definitions. So we got this definition from the Oxford Dictionary, and it's defined as the computer-generated simulation of a three-dimensional image or environment that can be interacted with in a seemingly real or physical way by a person using special electronic equipment, such as a helmet with a screen inside or gloves fitted with sensors. And our definition for the layman is when you leave your reality and completely enter a new one. And what we mean by this is you use some device such as like a screen, like the Oxford definition notes, to completely remove you from the reality your eyes are experiencing and putting you into a new reality, either a virtual one created by a computer or something through a camera where if you have like a drone, you can see the drone's reality and you kind of lose sight of where you're standing in the world, and you take more of like, you can feel like you're actually the drone, or in some cases you can feel like you're a police officer or a soldier out in the field for like military applications and things like that. So we're kind of more talking about how virtual reality is like, it takes the virtual part and it says this reality, you're not actually experiencing this reality, you're just seeing it. Like the device removes everything around you and it puts you into a new place. It makes you feel like you're in a new place.
And
is there anything else you want to add?
No, and if any of this sounds very abstract, that's totally fine. One of the hardest things for newcomers into the scene and for us still is understanding what the experience is actually like. It's very abstract, and it's best explained visually, so we provided visual aids. So over on the left, there's a GIF of a lady in a VR headset playing with one, and she gets scared by whatever she's seeing. And then on the right, we see a man in a virtual reality universe, but he's still inside of his room. So that's when we say it puts you inside of a virtual world. At least all of your senses are overtaken by it. And you can see him running and moving his hands, and he's unaware of what is around him. And that's kind of what really sums up a VR experience, is being placed inside of a new world. And that could be for business purposes, for gaming purposes, for cinematic purposes. There's lots of purposes. We're going to go ahead and we have a little YouTube video of one of our favorite virtual reality experiences. This is a game that's coming out for VR. From what I understand, you guys have a VR headset there today, which is the PSVR, which is a really cool one. I don't know what games you guys have, but they're all really good for the PSVR. So this one you guys will be able to try and have fun with. Anyways, here's a cool little video, a game that we're really excited for. Now, this is a little misleading. This girl is green screened into her surroundings. So what she sees is not what we're seeing. This kind of just explains what she feels like she's in right now. This is a cool game.
So here you can see she's kind of in like this Guitar Hero setting. And she's just hitting the notes. So she only sees the notes.
Let me turn it down. what's cool about this experience, if that's too quiet or too loud, let me know, is this is an experience that you can really only have in virtual reality. This is not an experience that can be had in any other game. Like you said, it's kind of like Guitar Hero, but that's because that's all we can relate it to. So this is really exciting. Games that were never possible before are completely possible now, and opening up a whole new medium of gaming specifically has a lot of it. All right, so that's a game that we're looking forward to coming out, and it looks really fun. Looks really, really fun. All right, back to the presentation. All right, so that's virtual reality. Let's go ahead and move on to our next term. Oh, wait, I skipped a slide. We're going to talk about virtual reality a little bit more. How do I get one? So you guys may have seen a lot of different devices, a lot of different gifts, and a lot of different experiences. So first, we have the low end of the price range for VR. So a lot of you have probably experienced VR already. There's phone-based VR. I mean, Google Cardboard, Samsung Gear VR. These cost between $10 and $15. You can pick them up, throw your phone into them, and have an actually really decent VR experience. And then we move up a little bit into the very high end. On the opposite end of the spectrum is the sorry, lost my train of thought for a second, is the higher end section. So the Vive, the Oculus Rift, and the PlayStation VR, which is what you guys have there. These cost a lot more. These range between $350 to $400, but these are the ultimate experience. You need a pretty high-end computer to run them, or PlayStation to run them, but this is the ultimate VR experience. And then recently, Windows has just released their new VR headsets. This is personally what we have, and these are really great. These are right in between the two options. They're super affordable, and you can pick one up for probably $150 to $300, depending on what you're looking for, and your computer doesn't have to be that strong to run them, but they still provide a really great VR experience. So if you're looking to get into developing for VR, or if this excites you, or if you've got some cool ideas running in your heads, here are some of the pros for getting into VR. There's many options and brands to choose from. As you can see, these are just a few of the VR options, and they're rapidly innovating. I mean, you saw Oculus Rift, the one in the middle over here, just came out 4 or 5 years ago. So, I mean, we're already moving into all of these different realms and headsets in such a short time. So it's a really exciting environment to be in. All right, let's jump into augmented reality. Go ahead, Paul.
So now we're going to talk about augmented reality, which the Oxford Dictionary defines as a technology that superimposes a computer-generated image on a user's view of the real world, thus providing a composite view. In our layman's definition is when data/information is overlaid on top of your reality. So the best way we could explain this is, say you're just going on a run and you have, say, a pair of smart glasses on, like the Google Glass, and you want your running route in the corner of your vision, and you want like how fast you're going, like some diagnostics like heart rate, things like that, things you'd want to know when you're working out. You can't really interact with any of those things, but they're just overlaid over your vision, and they're giving you real-time statistics about how you're doing. So that's kind of how we would define augmented reality. It's really just overlaid digital information. No real depth, no real interaction with the information besides maybe moving it from one side of your vision to the other.
Yeah, he's exactly right. Up here we have the pictures of our visual representations, and exactly like Paul said, you can see the runner counting his calories with a map. On the bottom left, you can see the biker, where it's using his location, but other than his location, there are no other services being deployed. No spatial mapping, no hand gestures, well, maybe voice gestures, but not much interaction. And then we have Iron Man, which is on the more futuristic end of augmented reality, but we're coming up on this kind of technology very soon. All right, let's go ahead and talk about how do I get one. So if you guys are interested in augmented reality, your best bet is probably devices like the Google Glass, which they're coming out with a new one soon, and or heads-up displays for your cars. This is probably what you're going to be, most of your interaction will be, is with subsidiary devices. These price ranges range from about $100 to $700 if you want to get a device. Some of the cons are there's limited options of what you can do with augmented reality, and they're falling behind compared to MR devices. And now you might be thinking, well, I've seen augmented reality a different way, but we're going to get into that in just a moment and cover it. Let's talk about mixed reality for a minute.
Okay, so getting to mixed reality, the big problem with mixed reality is it's not technically a word yet to Oxford Dictionary or really any other dictionary I checked. So we had to go to a crowdsourced dictionary called the Collins Dictionary, and this was not even an accepted word yet. This was a suggested word. And what the person wrote is their definition, which I thought was pretty good, is an environment created by adding computer-generated elements to the real world in a way that allows them to interact in real time. And what we said for our definition was when virtual objects enter your reality, basically augmented reality on steroids, commonly interchangeable with AR. And that's because we're really just at the bottom level of what MR can be. But to give a little context to even our definition is, imagine you have glasses on and you're looking at the real world, and you can have, say, like a map in the middle of your room, and it really looks like it's there. You can walk around it, you can see it in 3D, you can interact with it by touching it, move things around on it, and it actually shows up that you're moving the things. It feels like the digital object is really in the room with you. I think that's the best way to define mixed reality, because really it is putting computer generated objects in your world, not just over your vision of the world. But if you like walk around the corner, the object disappears, things like that. Or
like a ball rolling under a couch. Yeah. This is a very common example, is a ball rolling under a couch. As you see a virtual ball roll under, it will disappear as it goes under the couch. And you're actually with it. This is one of the most abstract terms by far, and one of the most fluid that we were talking about. We'll get to that in just a moment. But if you don't quite understand what we mean or the difference between AR and MR, we're getting to that. So sit tight. All right. So first we're going to talk about phone-based AR or MR. And you might see, it's lagging a little bit. All right, there we go. Phone-based AR and MR. And from now on, we're probably going to be using AR, MR interchangeably, because due to marketing and due to just discussion and debate within the community, we don't really have a difference between the two. But on the left, you can see this is Snapchat AR. It's technically MR, but we'll call it Snapchat AR. And that just got released a couple weeks ago, well, a year ago at this point now. That's really fun. You can do it in your phone. In the middle, we have Austin here holding a Merge VR cube, which is a cube he's holding that has augmented reality and mixed reality technology overlaid over it. And he's actually playing with it, which is really cool. And then on the right, we have AR Kit, which is for your app, which is for your iPhone. So if anybody has an iPhone, they can play around with augmented and mixed reality right now. And this is them measuring with augmented reality compared to a real tape measure, which we've done on our own channel if you guys are very interested in that kind of technology. So you guys might be asking yourself, how is this different than AR? Well, we'll get into that in just a moment. Actually, I forgot we moved the slide. All right, let's talk about headset-based AR and MR. So in the top left, you can see there's some people using HoloLens to look at a skeleton, and they're all looking at the same skeleton with the headset. And now the difference between phone-based AR and headset-based AR is pretty self-explanatory. One you wear and one you don't. We have a HoloLens right here, actually, and you just plop it right on your head like a pair of glasses, and it gives you the experience of holding your phone up in front of your face, and a lot more intense, but for all purposes. And on the right, you can see a fellow playing Minecraft. Now, this shows a good example of spatial computing, where he is mapping in the area around him, and he can actually interact with it. This is what Paul meant when he said there's a map that can pull out of it. Instead of just being in the top little right corner of your vision, the augmented reality or mixed reality holograms are completely displayed all around you, whether you walk around them, whether you move with them, and you can actually interact with them using hand gestures, voice gestures. And even more recently, in the bottom left, you can see a man just catching a hologram with his hand. And that's how intuitive the tracking and everything can be. It's literally like playing with a ball. Obviously, he's not feeling anything in his hand, but there it is. We have a quick video to go over this, too. That's pretty cool. Oh, I already have it loaded up over here. All right, so this is a quick case study done by Microsoft that made the HoloLens about one of their flagship games that came out a couple years ago called Fragments. And now if the volume's too loud or too quiet, someone let me know in the chat or somehow, and I can adjust it. But we'll kind of just let this play for a few minutes.
Said, hey, we have this amazing tech we're using for Conquer. We understand what a couch is. We understand what a chair is. Why don't we actually bring the characters out of the wall, put them in your world, we'll call it the Holo Call, and players will feel immersed and have natural conversations with these fictional characters.
This is Sarah Barnes, our biotech and forensic analyst.
Nice to meet you.
As we were developing the HoloCall, we started to really call it our campfire moment. It's that moment where the player is gathering with the team and kind of understanding what the mission's going to be.
Please help us. Help us bring our little baby boy home again.
The amazing experience about having these digital characters standing around this campfire is that the natural motions, the natural movements of each character in terms of gesturing, eye contact, where they're looking, would guide the player to look exactly where we want them to look. And this is really key because in a mixed reality scenario, when you're putting digital content in your room, it's something that you really want to make sure that they're not looking at a screen where you have this real estate sitting in front of you. That real estate is 360 degrees around you. You have the entire world as your palette. So it's very important to make sure that the player knows where to go, where to look. And in the case of the HoloCall, we just relied on natural human interactions to do this.
Here, it seemed to prevent the system from getting a lock on him.
So we're hunting blind. That leaves us with only one lead, Dr. Jacob Baker.
One of my favorite fragments moments I got to experience in having worked on the title was the difference in playing the game at work and playing the game at home. So there's a moment in the game where the villain actually hacks into the machine and threatens you. And I actually was directing the mocap for this. So this is something that I was very familiar with.
All right, so as you guys can see, I couldn't really hear the audio, but you could see he was playing a game called Fragments, which he kind of explained what it is. But it's really amazing because the game overtakes your whole entire room. So if I'm standing in my office where I am right now, and I put on the HoloLens and I scan in the area, it'll replace my walls with their walls. It'll replace my ceiling with their ceiling. It'll replace my floor with their flooring. And then my couch, it'll put a new couch over it. And then a virtual girl will walk in the room and she'll come and she'll sit down on the couch in my room. And it's a very uncanny, awesome experience that I wish everybody could try. And it's very hard to understand just how incredible this experience is until you can try it for yourself. So if you guys get the opportunity to try a HoloLens or any mixed reality device, I highly recommend you guys do because it's just awesome. So yeah, with the HoloLens, Fragments is a great one. We have whole videos of it on our channel if you guys are interested, like hour-long playthroughs of it. It's like a full-fledged AAA title game for the HoloLens. It's really great. And you can kind of just let your imagination go wild. I think that's the coolest thing about MR and what we love here at the Holo Herald about MR is you can really just let your imagination go crazy about all of the applications, medical, military, you know, corporate, gaming, cinema, everything can be impacted this. You can really let your imagination go wild. No more use for monitors, no more use for phones, no more use for a lot of things, paintings. I mean, there's so much things you can replace with a hologram once the technology is good enough and really just completely change your whole world. Mixed reality, create a whole new mixed reality. So we've talked a lot about it. Now, how do you get into it? So the price ranges between $100 and $3,000 for a mixed reality device. First in the top right, we have the Microsoft HoloLens. Then we have the Meta, which we talked about. Meta's really cool because it actually lets you use your hands to grab holograms. We got to go visit Meta down at their headquarters in California and play around with their new device, and it's quite incredible to reach out and grab something that's not actually there for anybody else in the room, but you're like playing with it and throwing it around. It's really quite incredible. Magic Leap, this is slated to come out sometime this year, maybe. We'll see. And then for most people, what's really great is now mixed reality and augmented reality is on your phone. So ARKit for iPhone users and AR Core for Android users. You're going to see these apps coming out a lot more. They've just been recently introduced. If anybody has an iPhone X, I think it is, you can do the emojis where they map your face. That's kind of similar technology that's being incorporated into these apps. Really cool apps where, like Home Depot, you can paint your walls a completely different color. What are some other cool AR Core apps? Some measuring. You can measure things without having to have a measuring tape, and it's really accurate. It's really excited, and the best of all, it's free. Most of the apps are free, and if you want to develop it, it's all free open source software to use. So it's really awesome. And so there's a wide range of spectrum. The HoloLens is the $3,000 device, while the AR kit is the lower end. HoloLens, you might say, wow, $3,000, that's a lot for a mixed reality device. It's more geared towards corporate use right now, and it's still in the very infancy of its technology. Some of the cool pros of mixed reality is you get unlimited options. You know, there's tons of different headsets. There's tons of different devices. Literally everybody has one. And you can create all different types of experiences, because good mixed reality does virtual reality. What I mean by that, I'll explain in just a moment. It's rapidly progressing. Like every day, new things are happening, new apps are coming out, new technologies being integrated. There's a lot of room for growth. And there's corporate use and consumer use. So if you want to just do it for big AAA companies like GE, or if you just want to do it for your friends, there's lots of different spectrum to get into or to use it for. All right. So do you want to talk about how they're different, Paul?
Yeah. So really, when you explain how all these devices are different, all these technologies like VR, AR, MR, you should really be thinking more about a spectrum. It's not cut and dry. As Eric alluded to, we can look and we can say mixed reality is the spectrum that everything's on, and virtual reality is at the far right of the spectrum. Augmented reality is at the far left next to physical reality, whereas virtual is next to digital reality. You notice that mixed reality encompasses everything because, I don't know if you noticed, but our definition of mixed reality was the most abstract, and that's because really it can do everything. Like you can turn it off, you got physical reality. You can turn it on just a little bit, you got augmented reality, and then in the middle, mixed reality. And then, as Eric said, really good MR can beat VR, and that's because we can overlay the digital world that you would be in with VR in your mixed reality vision, in your mixed reality glasses. So really, we can put you in that world with really good MR. We're not there yet. There are a couple apps that attempt to do it, but we have issues with field of vision and stuff like that. But yeah, you really have to think of these on a spectrum because they can really be interchangeable. The only one that struggles with that is obviously virtual reality, because it's trying to take you out of your physical world and put you in a new reality.
Exactly.
Anything else?
Nope. Yeah, and I was just going to talk a minute about the terms before. We're going to move away from terminology in just a moment. The terms are always changing. Like we made a video last year talking about what all these definitions meant, and in only 1 year, these have changed. So what we learn here today could be different, or depending on who you talk to 3 different people, you'll get 3 different definitions. So we're kind of giving a broader overview so you can fit experiences into this. And when we talk about mixed reality, virtual reality, and augmented reality, we rarely talk devices. At least marketing teams and corporate teams talk about devices, but in the community, we talk about experiences. It's a virtual reality experience. It's a mixed reality experience. It's an augmented reality experience. Because, like we said, technology can do a lot of different things, and it's always rapidly changing, but experiences rarely change. All right, so why does all of this matter? So, you want to go over this one, Paul?
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest tells of why all of this is going to matter is the stat we have up there, whereas virtual and augmented reality market will cross the figure of $547.2 billion by 2024, according to Transparency Market Research. So that means that there's going to be a sizable amount of money to be made in these technologies coming forward in the future. It's dominated right now by big players, and there's a couple small ones like Meta in there, but really it's all big players right now. So there's room for someone small to come in and say, I have this amazing idea for how I'm going to change up the experience. So it matters because this is going to take over every part of our entire lives. You can see it even it's going to even cross the level of cell phones in terms of market capitalization and usage. And that's because a really good AR or MR device will act as your phone, and you don't have to pull something out of your pocket every once in a while. You have it always in front of you. It's basically like saying, if you have like an Apple Watch, it's saying you don't even need your watch to access your phone anymore. You just need these glasses. And I think that's one of the really cool things about it. And people are throwing a ton of money at this stuff.
Tons of money, so much money. You can see right there in the adoption, it's right up, it's even getting adopted faster than color TV, than PCs, than cell phones. It's almost on par. It's even a little bit higher than cell phones. This is specifically just talking about virtual reality too. By 2020, they expect over 65% of households to have some form of a virtual reality device. That's like 2 or 3 years away. So you can see a lot of people talk about, you'll hear a lot of people say virtual reality is dead. Oh, virtual reality is the next big thing. Oh, virtual reality is the old big thing. Or immersive technologies in general, specifically virtual reality though. And I think what people neglect to forget is we are in such an infancy with virtual reality, and there's so many experiences to still be had. And you know, if everybody looked at the original iPhone that came out in 2007 and said, which didn't even have the App Store, if people remember correctly, it didn't have anything. The original iPhone was dirt. It was crap. But look at our evolution that we've had now. We've had 15 years of progressive computing into mobile technology. So it's really going to come the wave. And when people say things like virtual reality is dead, it's very clickbaity, because that's like saying the cell phone is dead, an iPhone, and look at where we are now. And each their own opinion, but the stats don't really lie. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Magic Leap funding. So Paul said that there was a lot of big players in the game, and he's exactly right. So far, people that are invested, I can name off some of the companies that are investing in just augmented reality and mixed reality in general. Apple has AR Kit, and they put tons of money. It's in every single iPhone. It's in every single device. They rarely do that to this kind of stuff. AR Core. Every Android device is going to have AR Core soon. So, you know, Google is backing AR Core too. So Google's got their stuff. And then we've got Microsoft, who's poured infinite amount of money into developing the HoloLens, and then we've got lots of little companies sprinkled everywhere. And then we also have Magic Leap. Magic Leap is a company that was founded back in like 2013, I think, and they have never released a single product. They have never released any product, and they still haven't up until now. But they've received over $2.5 billion in funding over the years from the likes of Google, Alibaba, Temasek and Holdings, Axel Springs, Saudi Arabia's Public. And I mean, these are big monies being thrown around. So imagine that, $2.5 billion. And they didn't even show their device until about 3 months ago. So that means they've released $2.5 billion for an idea. And that idea is mixed reality. They said, we can provide a mixed reality device, and everybody gave them money. So these big players are investing into it. So it's a future that's there. It's definitely there. It's a lot more behind the scenes. Excuse me. It's a lot more behind the scenes than most people realize, because it's not there in mainstream news, and it's not there quite yet, and there's still money to be made off of cell phones, so they're not going to start pushing this technology quite yet. But big players are very interested. All right, we could jump to the next one. We could talk about where are we now, right now, with all of this. Do you want to start with the chasm, Paul?
Yeah, so right now, I think we just emerged from the innovator stage. In terms of like the HoloLens and MR AR technology, I think we are just emerging from the innovator stage where all the developers have them. Everyone who wanted to have one first got theirs. And the early adopters like us are just about to get theirs. But we've fallen into this chasm, was what they call it, where everyone who has one is like, oh, these are awesome. But everyone outside is like, everyone who's not an early adopter is like, oh, this isn't that cool. They're waiting for the technology, like the app offerings and things like that to catch up to the technology. So we're in this chasm where everyone's like, oh, it's failing. But if you think back, like Eric said, with the iPhone, even before that, we had Palm Pilots and things like that, and people still liked their flip phones and stuff like that. And they didn't really go for these touchscreen smartphones. I mean, if you look at the first tablet, it was created back in like the 1980s, and then they completely fell off the screen. They fell into the chasm. And I think that's where we are with this technology right now, where we're about to hit this chasm where everyone kind of writes it off. And then we're going to get this huge uptick, because these technologies, if you think about it, there's nothing new to them. They're just going to replace every piece of technology we have today. One device is going to be your phone. It can be your TV. It can be your car's heads-up display system. It can be really anything you need it to be. So we're just waiting for kind of the developers to catch up to what the technology can do.
Exactly. And I would say VR is coming out of early adopters into early majority, especially with all of the new devices now coming out and slated for this year. Especially this coming up year is going to be very good for VR and adoption. So we're kind of ticking out of early adopters into early majority. I could say 2012 was kind of the chasm for VR when the Oculus Rift first came out that we talked about at the beginning of this presentation. And over here we have a very cool graphic that I really like, and this talks about device form factors and product life cycle. So as you guys have may noticed, a lot of people are getting let me start over. A lot of people are not having desktop computers anymore. A lot of people are replacing with laptops, tablets, or just their mobile phone. And that's in our declining market. You can see it farthest to the right. Right now, what's really popular is hand computers. And these are all just different types of computers and form of computing. Hand computers are really popular. They're kind of getting less popular, though. People are dropping their phones for watches, for Google Homes, for lots of different stuff. So that's the mature market. And we've seen that for about the past 15 years. You know, probably about 2009 is when it kind of started to mature a lot, and now it's on their way out. And then the growth market right now is in wrist computers and voice computers. I don't really think wearables like wristwatches are that big of a deal. I don't think there's a lot of innovation to be made there, but smart home devices and voice computers and smart devices in your home, that's really, really big growth market. And then over on the left, we have face computers, so such as AR, VR, or mixed reality, or HMDs. And this is the emergent cloud. This is kind of the unknown. And the way they define it is many players and still working out business models, which is very true. But, I mean, if we look at this progression cycle, where it's going to be in a few years, it's a big deal, and it's going to be a much, much bigger deal. And just knowing about it now, for you guys, I mean, it puts you way ahead of the growth market. I mean, puts you way ahead of all your peers and everything, because most people don't know this wave is even coming. And when it hits, it's going to hit big and hard. So I guess we can talk about the future for a moment. Can Chad tell me how we're doing on time? Or someone tell me how we're doing on time?
We're at 7:41. We've been talking for like 40 minutes.
All right. So these are just here. We can probably skip these. And
well, we can kind of explain them. So like holoportation.
I'll pull it up.
Yeah, you can pull it. But it's where you're using a MR device and you scan yourself in and you scan your room in, and you can actually, and another person scans their room in, and you can meet in either person's room, and it will attach an avatar to you, and you can walk around that person's room, and that person will actually see you as if you're walking around the room, independent of where they're moving. Obviously, they can still walk through you and things like that, but it really gives a more collaborative experience if you're across the country, like we are, like Eric and I are. It would be much better for working on projects if we could have, say, an MR table in front of us with a project that we've rendered into MR, and we're sitting around the table together talking, and we can see each other's avatars and have a more real experience rather than just like voice chat.
So yeah, as you can see on the screen right now, he's got his little daughter who's in the other room right now, or in a whole different building, I actually think, and they're streaming her complete body to a new location, which is really quite incredible when you think about it. I mean, I think Skype is pretty cool, and Google Hangouts is pretty cool, or how we're just talking is pretty cool, but imagine if we could actually be in front of you guys giving this presentation as if we were sitting at our desk or walking around your station. As real as you could be. And these graphics don't look very good, but the graphics for the HoloLens are actually really crisp and really clean. And then it's actually kind of cool. He records it and goes down. Yep, he records it, and then he makes it smaller and puts it there, so it's a memory that's there forever. Anyways, this is a cool technology that's coming out very soon. This is talking about the brief future, and now we're going to give you like a really sci-fi look, which is called hyper reality. This is a short film that a man made about the future of mixed reality, and I'll just go ahead and let it play for like a few minutes.
Fantastic. Great. Nice. Great.
Más tarde. Apúrate si quieres una buena calificación.
Voy lo más rápido que puedo.
¿Has pensado en correr? Es saludable y eficiente.
Seguro que no hay más trabajos disponibles. Yo estudié para ser profesora y estoy haciendo mercados.
Y además puedes quedarte con los puntos de fidelización. Eres una monje afortunada. Tienes que confiar en la aplicación. ¿Te sientes inspirada? Gracias. Chao.
¿Quién soy yo? No es lo que quiero decir. ¿Para dónde voy?
Información biométrica. Por favor, Sigue la línea azul hasta el centro de servicio más cercano para confirmar tu identidad.
Sí, pero mis puntos están bien.
Todo está bien. Chao.
Anyways, that's basically what it is, and that's kind of a almost a Black Mirror-esque look at the future of augmented and mixed reality. I highly doubt it'll ever get this invasive, but it's kind of fun to just look at the possibilities and jog your brain about everything that's possible. And I think that is the end of our oh, wait, we have one more thing. We just have some relevant resources for everybody that's interested. You guys could just Google these instead of following our links. It's pretty easy. If you guys are interested in the HoloLens, what we talked about, you can search HoloLens developer or Holo developers Slack, and you can join it. It's a great community full of thousands of people that are all into developing mixed reality right now. Very independent, not big corporate use. And then there's the developers forum, which is very interesting. There's our channel, and really, if you go to our channel, we just have like links to a lot of different stuff, or our website, holoherald.com, and you can find links to everything that, well, theholoherald.com, and you can find links to our Twitter and everything else that's out there. Anyways, I think that is the end of our presentation. I don't know if Chad's there, if anybody's there, or if we're just been saying this to nobody and it fell off the rails a long time ago. Oh, there he is. I can hear him. Hey, Chad. What's up, man? Yeah, let's
Yeah,
do
sure.
that. Yes. Yeah, so I think someone's going to be talking about IoT or has talked about IoT, and one of the really cool futures is augmented reality and mixed reality mixed with IoT devices. So there's a lot of data out there that's not being used right now, like with IoT. You can track things from A to B. You can give live sensors on stuff that's connected to the internet automatically. But a lot of that data is inaccessible. You have to carry an iPad with you. You have to walk around and select what you're doing. It's not very user-friendly accessing those IoT devices. But with the advent of augmented and mixed reality, as you saw in hyper reality, as she was walking around, there were things on the walls. You could imagine walking through a factory, and there's let's say, a overheated valve or a pressure, something that manages pressure. As you're walking, as you're walking through the factory, you can look around you, and all the live data is put up right there in augmented reality, real time. You can select it through menus. It pops up as a hologram above it saying, this is the pressure of this. This hasn't been checked for 30 days. This hasn't done anything. Or you can even like stand and watch a bunch of trucks. Like say you're a air traffic control, like an air traffic controlman would be really cool too. Each plane would have its augmented reality stuff right above it, and you can look at it as it's coming in, and you can see where you need to go. So managing IoT devices with all this data, we just have, that's why we call it, a lot of people call it spatial computing. Immersive technologies goes hand in hand with spatial computing. And we have so much data, especially with IoT, it's really hard to manage all of that data and make it accessible. But with spatial computing, you can manage all of that data relevantly right where it is, right where it needs to be, and access it in a palatable format. There's lots of cool technologies. We've got lots of apps like that we've talked about on our channel and stuff. So does that cover your question about right? Anything else? No, you're good. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I think you're definitely right. This is a long time coming. For those on the stream that couldn't hear what she said, she just referenced some of the older uses of mixed reality. She says the chasm has been going a lot longer than we anticipated, or it's been going for quite some time, and now we're just kind of graduating out of it because there's actual uses for mixed reality and these kind of technologies, which I think is 100% correct. And one thing that's very interesting to riff off that with is when people try the HoloLens, which very few people have tried the HoloLens that we have right here, a lot of the things that people first say is, wow, this will be cool. People say, like, this will be cool. And I think that's a very interesting concept because they are literally trying it. They're literally experiencing it right now. And I understand they mean this will be cool when I get my hands on it. But they say this will be cool in the future. This is such a futuristic thing. And I'm like, this is now. This is the technology that people are working on right now behind the scenes that you just don't see. And it's interesting. People keep saying, wow, that's a cool future. That's a cool future. But the future is now, exactly like she said, that we're finally into that future technology now where we have uses for it and we have computing power to be able to handle everything. Is that kind of what you meant? I'm sorry, I can't hear very well. Hmm. Yeah. There's lots of different technologies, and as they all come together, that's kind of where we're going to see the greatest form when cloud computing and artificial intelligence and IoT kind of all come into a palatable consumer experience, because that's what everybody's into is, an iPad or an Apple, a palatable computing experience, and there's not much more palatable than right in front of your face or as natural as everything around you. So it's really awesome right now. Do we have any other questions? Maybe Paul can take one if we do have any. Anything on the stream? Do we have any questions on the stream? No questions on the stream. Yes.
Yes.
Of course. So, yeah, I could go. I can attack that first thing real quick before we get too far off a bit about computing. So what we say about computing comes a lot of time with the other technologies like cloud computing and such. There's a lot of companies now that are offering services where you just rent their supercomputer and then you virtual machine into it and you play through it. So I mean, the power of, like, I know what you're probably getting at is you don't want to get rid of your gaming PC, and that power won't be there. Well, power's not going to be a problem anymore because you're going to pay a monthly service to virtual machine into it, and then your little device is going to be a pair of glasses that all it does is connect to the 4G, and then you have all of this power or something like that. And it's an inevitable progression. Like, we've been progressing since the dawn of time. Each new technology of iteration blows out one of the ones behind it. Is an example I could say. What's an example we always use, Paul? We normally use automation when we talk about this, but as far as like getting rid of screens, we have an interesting video that compares playing Xbox One on a hologram to comparing it to a monitor. So I think it's just an eventual progression. It doesn't have much to do with mixed reality. It has more to do with consumers right now. Look at Netflix. Everybody used to have a really nice home theater setup that was really awesome, but now everybody just wants Netflix and wants to watch what they want when they want it. So it's more of a sacrifice of what do we always call it? Ease over use. Can you help me out a little bit, Paul?
Are you talking about like security over what the hell?
Always freaking leaves us. Ease of use over anything.
Convenience, yeah, it's just more convenient.
So convenience and ease of use. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. No, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like, right now, especially, there's even a company that's created a cryptocurrency using that blockchain technology that you just talked about that's actually going to start dealing digital land. So it's preparing us for a future of where people can own the air above your head digitally. So if you have your AR glasses on, the only thing you're going to see there is their advertisement or what you want them to see. And I don't think this new cryptocurrency is the way they're going to do it, because it sounds kind of like a scam. I mean, it's a third-party company. We need a government to step in and do it and divvy out this digital land. But I think we're going to see a digital land rush, literally. Like, yeah, everyone who owns buildings will still own the airspace of their buildings. But what about all the space, like, anywhere else? Like, what about the area above a parking lot? What about billboards? Like, you could have ads for miles and miles and miles. It's not just where did they build billboard. So we're at like a huge risk of running into this area where it's like, oh my God, we can run into hyperreality where they can put ads everywhere, which is why I think really this is where government becomes useful, where they can divvy out the land and create like almost like a set of digital laws that will say you can't have an ad in front of a stop sign, stuff like that. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it's regulated in the future. But I think right now, once we're at that level where hyperreality can be real, it's going to be the wild, wild west. And you're going to have a lot of issues from, I think, things like hyperreality, because to me that video is like a worst case scenario of what these technologies can become.
And when you say we're not very far off, I think that's very true. We're progressing daily. You know, new apps are coming out, new people are getting on board, new money is being put into it, and so the progression's happening very rapidly, actually, which is very exciting. And when you say 15 years off, people get really crazy and mad at me when I say you're not going to have a phone in that log. You know, basically the idea behind it is we took 15 years to dig ourselves into the hole of having mobile phones and being obsessed with these. It's going to take us about 15 years to dig us out. But if we even take a phone, for instance, phones don't progress very much anymore. I mean, look at the latest roll of phones. There was not much, maybe a bigger screen, maybe a little bit of faster processor, but as far as the core experience and computing abilities, has not changed very much. And everybody's attached to their phones. It's not going anywhere for quite some time. But that is just the natural progression of things. So yeah, you're exactly right. The question was for people on the stream that couldn't hear. He asked how far off is hyperreality, and is that an actual possibility with the blockchain and all of these advent of cool technologies? So yeah, I think that's a great question. That's a great question though. Hyperreality is awesome. That guy's got some really other cool videos if you're interested.
There's really nothing stopping us from that. I mean, you could imagine like a Google where they have all this data on you and they can give you personalized ads, and there's nothing stopping that. But Google's going to own that space in your server, you know, like you can build your own server and run like a VPN for yourself where you can see nothing, just the MR stuff you want, like, oh, what's my usual path to work, stuff like that, if that makes sense. So yeah, a company like Google, I'm thinking really the major companies today, like this is something where Google is going to have a huge play at. I think that idea that you just brought up, I never really thought of that, but that's exactly what's kind of going to happen. They're going to use all this personal data that they already have on us, and they're really going to just populate your world with ads. So that's a huge danger, and we need to, these are the kind of problems that we need to be tackling right now before stuff like this happens, but no one's really talking about it.
Exactly. And when Paul says Google, I mean, it's not very hard. It's not very hard of a transition to make from Google owning AdSense on the internet. So basically every ad you see on the internet is owned by Google or funneled through Google in some form or another. It's the same exact concept. They own all of that digital space. So it's not really hard for us to take, you know, a banner or a side on a website. It's not very hard of a stretch of imagination, excuse me, to say that they own right outside of your front lawn or whatever it is. That's a very abstract concept, and it's very fun to talk about. It's very high level. It's one of the most exciting things to talk about is virtual space. And that's the eventual progression of things. But as far as right now goes, we don't have very much worry of that. More of like the everyday uses of mixed reality and virtual reality are kind of what's facing us right now, you know, telecomputing or you know, lots of different experiences. Like we have a whole channel just dedicated to showing new apps that developers are making, and big companies have big monies like Chrysler, Ford, GE own HoloLenses or getting into mixed reality devices. So it's probably going to stay more corporate and then work its way consumer. But, you know, I mean, it's anybody's guess. That's the cool thing about right now. There's a high risk, high gain. So it's really exciting. Any other questions? Yeah, every week. It's always changing so quickly. So yeah, thank you guys for letting us come and talk. Well, come and be on your screen. It was awesome. Hopefully we got to help a little bit of you guys. If you guys have any questions, you guys can email us, Discord us. I don't know. Just Google Holo Herald and we'll come up in some form or another, and you guys can check us out there. Especially to to people that are like kind of cynical about it, or they don't think it's really the reality. I really implore them to go check out our channel and see some of the stuff that's actually being implemented right now. It's just behind the scenes, and it's a really great time now. We get plenty of hate on our channel, so just bring on the hate if you guys are over there. I think it's a good time. Thank you guys. I think that's everything, I guess. And everybody on the stream that's live with us right now, thank you guys. And I think that's everything. Is that good, Chad? Okay. Okay, thank you guys so much. Have fun playing PSVR. Hopefully you guys have Skyrim or Doom or something. That's a good one. Okay, thanks guys. Good.
Are we good? Are we good?